Warm and heartfelt welcome to a CrossYoga slow class. My name is Ria, and please take a seat and bring a block to the class. I'm seated on one, so bring that along if you have. If you don't, no worries. So find that tall spine with the eyes closed. We'll breathe a bit, and I'll read a passage. But first, let's get seated, eyes all softly closed. And maybe inhale and sigh out. See if you can calm your breath and find that peace and just focusing on your breath. Knowing that whatever you're feeling right now, whatever you're thinking or not thinking, you are welcome. And God bid you welcome to meet Him here on the mat today. In a moment, I'll be reading from the Bible, Psalm 51. Now, you are welcome just to pick one word and just listen, or make it your prayer, whatever makes sense to you. But know that this psalm was written by David. King David lived 3,000-4,000 years ago, and he just committed actually murder and adultery, and he was feeling this blame and this guilt. And maybe some parts of this we can recognize in our lives today. It might be called shame instead. Guilt of not being enough. Feeling ashamed of not being the perfect woman or man that you wished. So David speaks or cries out to God. So just listen along. From verse 7. Soak me in your laundry, and I'll come out clean. Scrub me, and I'll have a snow-white life. Tune me into the foot-tapping songs. Set these once broken bones to dance. Don't look too close for blemish. Give me a clean bill of health. God, make a fresh start in me. Shape a Genesis week from the chaos of my life. Don't throw me out with the trash or fail to breathe holiness in me. Bring me back from my grey exile. Put a fresh wind in my sails. And maybe you need to forgive yourself. Maybe you need to ask other people for their forgiveness. Or maybe you need to come to God and say, God, I lost my way. Somehow I turned the wrong direction. And I want to come back. Create in me a Genesis week from the cares of my life. A fresh start. We'll move into child's pose because I want us to take time to maybe ask for forgiveness or just accept forgiveness for ourselves. So whatever is speaking to you, find child's pose with your palms facing up. Your hip moves towards your heels. And stay here in prayer or meditation. You're always welcome to pause the video and stay here for a bit longer if that's what you need today. We'll come back to the topic, but you can find tabletop and do some free movements. Tabletop with your hands placed under your shoulders. And maybe do a circle or two with your wrists in order to prepare them for downward facing dog. So take the hip off and move into downward facing dog. Walk your legs. Remember that tabletop is always a good posture to go to if downward facing dog is not your thing. Now walk your feet to the top end of the mat and fold forward. Bending your knees as much as you need to. And just one simple flow sequence before we do a few postures and stretches. So standing in mountain pose, you stay at the top end of the mat. Take your arms out to the side and up over your head. Palms together, draw your hands in towards your chest, bending your neck down, maybe shooting your spine a little bit back. Then lifting up your arms again towards the sky, opening up your chest, looking up maybe, going for a slight back bend. And then stretch your spine, take your hands down by your side. We'll do that again. So reach your arms up overhead. Palms together, bow your head. Reach your arms up overhead. Widen the distance and go for a back bend. Open, lift up. And stretch your spine, move your hands down by your side. And you can breathe as it makes sense here. Again, lift your arms up overhead. Prayer pose. I like to think of this as forgiveness. And as I reach my arms up overhead, opening up, receiving forgiveness, grace, love. Taking your hands down. So you can make that symbolic posture if that makes sense. 2 more times through. Palms together. Prayer pose. Bow your head. Open up. Look up. Hands down. One more time. And please notice that we finish with our arms up overhead like this, right? And then we take our hands down. But as that is always the last thing we do. We don't stay in forgiveness, shame mode. We receive forgiveness and grace. All right. Step your left leg back today, beginning with that warrior two. So don't go too far out if you don't want to today. But stack your knee over ankle, arms out, align with the floor. Gaze towards the front. And see if you can tuck your pelvis maybe slightly more underneath your shoulders, or your whole torso becomes tall. Few deep breaths. Now pivot or turn the front foot. So you're coming into a wide-legged stance, and you can always adjust wider, shorter distance. Reach your arms up overhead and take your cactus arms to shoulder blades squeeze together. And maybe your hands actually moves a little bit back behind your shoulder blades. Your ribs, we don't want to shine forward with the ribs, we want to knit them in a little bit. So our core again stays strong. And palms together on top of your head. You want to fold forward, and of course you can just bend your knees, core in, so navel in, strong as you lean forward. Come into a wide-legged forward fold. Now I like having my toes pointing in a little bit when I come into this. And just stay folded forward or move slightly and slowly from side to side. We all need a fresh start, a Genesis start at some point in our lives. But sometimes it's just hard to find that time or that moment to say, okay, it's now. This is the moment. But if you feel convicted right now that maybe there is something you need to start over with, maybe it's relationships with one person. Maybe it's your relationship with food or with God. Just come up. Turn your feet and just go into mountain pose, and with your palms down. Is there anything that you need a fresh start from? Related to forgiveness or not? Ask God for help. Open up your eyes and then step your right leg to the back and turn around, find warrior two the other side. So I'll turn on my mat, but you'll stay where you are. I just want to have a look at the screen. So warrior two, stepping your right leg to the back and align the right leg with the short end of the mat. And stay here in warrior two with gaze kind of distant, gazing over the front hand. One more breath all the way down. Again, as we did before, turn then the back foot, so we come into a wide stand, and again, just turn around if you can't watch the screen. What you're going to do, fold our hand, grasp the hands behind us, or just take a hold of the arm, whatever works for you. But we want to try to squeeze the shoulder blades back and down. And then you can draw your hands behind your buttocks and maybe go for a back bend with the gaze up if it feels good. See if you can soften your knees a little bit. Keeping your core steady as your breath moves in and out. One last breath. And release, maybe shake things out. Lean forward, walk your hands to the top end of the mat where they normally would be, and step the front foot back. We don't want to go into wide-legged forward fold again. Move into plank. Take plank on knees, elbows, whatever works for you. We're going to stay here again just to engage everything, arms, abs, thighs, shoulders. And then take your knees down, widen the distance, and once again, child's pose or any other posture if there's any issues with your knees. And again, you can let the palms face up, forehead on the mat. And I will read just a few things here from the passage again. Turn me into foot tapping songs and set these once broken bones to dance. Don't look too close for blemish, and give me a clean bill of health. So God, make in me a fresh start, shape a Genesis week from the cares of my life. And a little bit later it says, unbutton my lips, dear God. I'll let loose with your praise. It's a gratitude for knowing or believing that there is an option of a fresh start in your life and with God's help. Now lift up from child's pose and come down on your belly. I'm gonna do cobra, or you can do sphinx with the elbows down. But you can take your hands a little bit in front of you and lift up. Be gentle, graceful with yourself. Take your shoulders down as you lift your chest up. Maybe want to pull them back, those shoulders. Relax your buttocks. And slowly come down. Coming to a seat, and again, just sit in that direction that is the best towards the screen. I want to do maybe a little bit of an advanced posture, but you don't have to do all of this. It's called cow face. So if you can't sit somewhat like this, just find a cross-legged position. Just remember which leg is on top or in front. So don't overthink this. We just want to stretch the sides a little bit. So whatever, cross-legged or this cow face posture. And for it to stretch, maybe you need to lean forward a little bit, and then you You probably will feel the outer edge of your hips. And try to relax. I don't know if you agree with me, but somehow I think we live in a culture where we don't talk a lot about forgiveness. We might say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but true forgiveness, and that's not a feeling. That's a choice. You probably know this. Forgiveness is a choice, and we don't talk too much about it. And I think we need to. Coming back, crossing the legs opposite than what you did before. I don't think I mentioned what I did here, but if you just looked at the screen, now my left is at the bottom, the right is at the top. I really like the idea in Catholic churches they have, I don't know what the term is in English actually, but there has these kind of booth, at least in old tradition, you would go into the church and then ask for forgiveness. The pastor would listen to you, or the priest would listen to you. And somehow I think we need those confession booth or tables in our society today. It almost becomes more online confessions, right? But maybe that's not going so deep. Because if we ask for real forgiveness, we also receive real forgiveness. And I think we so need that. So many of us need a fresh start. And not one we can muscle our way to, but something that is given to us by hearing, "You are forgiven." All right, come out, and maybe you do your windshield wiper a little bit. Find a seat to roll your shoulders. I'm gonna finish the class, and if you feel like resting on the mat or finding child's pose again, reading the passage, writing in your journal maybe about the fresh start, you're welcome to do that. But I'll finish with a prayer. As always, you can listen along or pray with me, whatever you like. I like my palms to be open sometimes when I pray. So God, we ask for a fresh start in our lives. You know us, I believe that. If we are believing strongly or not so strongly, I believe you know us. And you know what we need and what we are seeking. And God, help us to forgive ourselves. Give us power and strength to forgive others. And give us the wisdom to ask for your forgiveness. And receive your grace and your love so that we can have a fresh start. Your forgiveness will cover every bad decision, every bad word, every bad thing we have ever done, God. Help us trust in a clean slate, in a Genesis start from the chaos of our lives. Amen. From my heart to yours, thank you so much for joining this somewhat short class, and make sure you take that rest on the mat. See you in another video.